Shalom, everyone, and welcome to a new series where you will be learning Hebrew vocabulary, but with art. So, in this series, what I'm going to be doing is I will be putting up a video with a Hebrew word in it for you to learn, but I will be sketching something involving that word. So that way you'll have a picture and the word combined together to remember. But I don't just want you to just watch me do a sketch or anything like that. I want you also to be artistic, and you can do a sketch, a painting, you can sculpt something with clay, you can even bake and draw something on your cake or with icing or something, or even make a giant chocolate chip cookie and spell out the Hebrew word with the chocolate chips. I don't care what kind of medium you use, or if you want to do calligraphy or music. If you're someone who's good with music, you can create a song using the Hebrew word, or even pixel art. I don't care what your medium is for your artwork. You just try something fun, and you can even draw a stick figure. It's fine. All artists started with a stick figure once upon a time. So even if you can just draw a stick figure, that's fine. Okay, so don't worry too much about the fact that it's like, oh, I can't draw, I can't do anything artistic, or saying that you're not artistic. I don't think that's true. You probably are very creative. You are created in the image of God. God is a creator, which means you have the ability to create too, because He's made us that way, to have this desire to create things and make things that are beautiful, because He has that quality as well. He put that quality into us when He made us. We all have some ability to create something, and something that's enjoyable and fun. So come up with something fun to learn your Hebrew vocabulary word. You could even create a story using the word. So you could write out the story, or you could do something where you can do storytelling. Even if you're talking to your pet dog or cat, you can tell them the story in Hebrew. It's fine, as long as you're doing something to remember the Hebrew word. Because what happened to me when I was learning Hebrew was I learned the Hebrew alphabet, I learned a lot of grammar and stuff, and the vowels and everything, but I struggled learning Hebrew. It was very difficult for me to remember things and start reading, like reading with understanding, because I did not memorize Hebrew vocabulary. And that's the problem. The word memorize. Whenever we think of memorizing something, we get very worked up and bothered, and we think, oh my goodness, there's so much here to memorize, and you don't want to memorize something. And most of the time, you learn things organically with your native language, with English or whatever your native language is. So that's what I'm saying, to do something fun when learning your Hebrew vocabulary. And once you collect a whole bunch of Hebrew vocabulary words, you could even play Hebrew Pictionary, where you use the Hebrew words instead of English words. And you can do this with a friend or family. That's where the benefit is to learning Hebrew in a group setting, because if you do it in a group, then you can play Pictionary together and see all the funny pictures you come up with, and that will also make it more memorable, and you'll be able to remember the Hebrew vocabulary better because it's something funny. And the other thing you can do is read the Bible stories as well, because these vocabulary words are biblical Hebrew vocabulary words, and they will show up in the Tanakh, that is the Hebrew Bible, which we call the Old Testament. And so I will put a link in the description to the words, to where those words will be found in the Bible. And so when you go and read those verses or even those stories, you can go and take a look at them and read the Hebrew word instead of the English word. For example, if we were to say the name Abraham in Hebrew, it would be Avraham. So I will put a link in the description to the stories of Abraham in the Bible, and you can go read them. And wherever you see the name Abraham in English, don't say Abraham, say Avraham. Or you can even, for example, in some of the stories where it says the word stone in it, and I will put a link to where those words can be found in the Bible, and you can go read it. And for example, when Jacob puts his head on a stone, you can say Evan instead, the Hebrew word for stone, Evan. You can say Jacob laid his head on an Evan. And that way you'll remember the words when you're using them. And so this is for you only to do that when you're reading your Bible. And if you're doing it in a group, you can probably do it together in a group, but so other people probably won't know what you're saying if you're suddenly reading Hebrew in your English Bible. So maybe for other people who don't know it, probably don't say the Hebrew words then. But sometimes, once you're so familiar with it, it may slip up, because sometimes that happens to me. I'll be reading something in the Bible in English in a group setting where other people don't know Hebrew, and suddenly I will say the Hebrew word, and then it's like, oops, I forgot. I have to use the English word, because you become so familiar and used to it. And that's what you want. You want it to become familiar and used to it, but you don't want other people to feel left out. Don't do that. Okay? So try and find something fun. And I really suggest trying to do the Pictionary game, where you use the Hebrew. So create some little cards or flashcard kind of things and write the Hebrew words on the cards. And then play the game Pictionary with a friend if you're doing the Hebrew, as I said before. If you're doing it in a group, this is the benefit of doing it in a group. And you can play Pictionary. So you can pick up a card from the deck, and then you see the Hebrew word, but don't put the English definition underneath the word, because you want to recall the Hebrew, the translation of the Hebrew. So try and do it that way, where it's a challenge. You can keep two separate decks, one with just the Hebrew and one where you have the Hebrew and then you can put the English underneath if you need a little help. So you can use two decks. So maybe start off with one deck where you have the Hebrew and the English on one side of the card, so that way when you look at it, you'll have to draw what you see. And then the more you develop the ability to remember that word, you can try the challenge of just using another deck where it's just Hebrew words. So try that game out. It would be a lot of fun. I wish I actually had someone to play that game with, actually, because when I started learning Hebrew, I started back when I was in high school to learn Hebrew, and I didn't have anyone else to learn it with. I used books, videos on YouTube, tutorials, all these different things to try and learn Hebrew, and it took a long time to learn it because I didn't have anyone else to do it with. So if you can, try and find someone who will do it with you, okay? It's very beneficial when you have someone else to do it with and you get to enjoy the language together, okay? So moving forward, that's what I'll be doing in this series, and I will see you in the next video, where we will be learning your first vocabulary word, okay? And so until then, shalom and God bless. And I hope you enjoy watching the rest of this video where I finish the artwork and you can see what it is about, okay? So until then, shalom and God bless.